Before we start, just a couple of things here. First of all, I'd like to remind you that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over Lunenburg Public Access. And I'd like to also let you know that these meetings are being published on YouTube, and you can go to the Public Access YouTube channel to view them. Just go to youtube.com, type in Lunenburg Access, and scroll through the list of all the meetings that have been posted. And then the meetings will be rebroadcast on Channel 8, Saturdays and Sundays at 7 p.m., Tuesday at 11 a.m., Wednesday at 8 a.m. So just want people to be aware of that. And I do have a notice of public hearing from the Lunenburg Planning Board. They'll be holding a public hearing on March 24th, 6:35 p.m., right here at Town Hall, to amend the zoning bylaw by adding to the current Section 4.0, use regulations, a new section entitled Section 4.16, Registered Marijuana Dispensary. Copies are on file in the planning office, and notice of said hearing will be duly posted. Okay? Any public comment before we begin? Any communications from the committee?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate a question that I put out when I sent the minutes around about whether or not we can obtain information or handouts from people at the departments as they're presenting electronically, so we can either post them on the FinCom page or discuss the potential for having a new page on the website that would just be a gathering or a collection of all the budget information, because of what I'm finding is when I post the minutes, I should be posting handouts as well.
Right.
But if I can refer to them, then I think that would be sufficient.
Right. Kerry, is it possible that we could get soft copies of any of the presentations that are made? Okay. So at the very least, we can post them with the minutes. Not sure if there might be a way to post them on the website, maybe on the finance page or something like that. If you get us soft copies, we'll post them.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. We've had some adjustments to our schedule. Tonight we'll be hearing from the library, the Council on Aging, and the Department of Public Works. First up is Lunenburg Library, and we're pleased to have the director, Martha Moore.
Thank you. It's been a fast-paced year. I just thought I'd start off with some of the accomplishments of the library over the last year, because there are many. We completed and launched just about a month or so ago our new website, which when I checked it about 4 days ago had close to 10,000 hits in about 2 months, so I think that's doing pretty well, and we're getting very good feedback from our patrons. Our library exterior, as many of you know, has been painted, and I'd like to thank Jim Bro and Kit Walker for managing that project and doing such a great job and bringing it in way under budget. We had our first juried art exhibition for Lunenburg artists, which was a huge success. Not only did it gather some funds for the starving artists in our community, but also for the library, so it was a win-win situation for all of us. We've done a lot of weeding of the collection. I know that's a weird word for most people who are not librarians, but that means taking out the old things and updating the collection, putting in new things. A lot of work around that. And the older materials will go into the book sale, which will then generate additional funds for us, compliments of the Friends organization. We've increased the number and variety of our programs, in particular the adult programs. And Cultural Horizons is a 3-month-long program, or series of programs, I should say, that the Friends put on. And this year it focused on Scandinavia, because we have so many Scandinavian people here in town. And that too has been a great success. One of the kind of flashy things that we've done this year is contract for a utility called Wowberry, which sends out email alerts of all the latest and greatest that's coming into the library out via email to everybody that signs up for it. So you can not only see what's new in the library, but you can read reviews on it. You can also request it. So it helps people in Lunenburg, the people who have signed up anyway, get ahead of all the requests for new items. And that includes books, movies, audiobooks, etc. And we've also begun having ebook and computer help service. The computer help we've had for several years. I think Doug Pulsifer comes every other Monday night and helps anybody that walks through the door with computer questions, and that's been very successful too. And the ebook thing is something new that we're doing. Sandy Altucker, who's our digital services librarian, she came on about a year ago, and she is making appointments with people so they can come in with their device, sit down with her for 10 minutes, half an hour, whatever it takes to get them up to speed on that and get them going. Some of the key indicators or statistics, and this is numbers are a little bit small, but there was a lot to put on the slides. Our collection is about 79,000 in total, 79,000 items. Circulation last year, 2013, was 113,000. Interlibrary loan, which if you've ever seen our buckets as they come in, we get 7, 8, 4, depending on the day, buckets of books every day. And we send out probably at least that. So all total of coming and going interlibrary loan, 22,311. Overdrive, which is the ebook facility, which we partner with the rest of the libraries in our region to acquire these ebooks, audiobooks, etc., that you can download. Last year, this is one of the most startling statistics, there was a little over 1,000 hits or uses of those ebooks. This year, it's close to 4,500. So definitely usage is up. In terms of reference, last year, the number that was in the records was 8,000, and in 2013, that went up to 28,000.5, give or take a few. Programs, 201 this year in 2013, slightly up from last year. Registered users, which Lunenburg should be really proud about. It's rare that you see a number so close to 100% for registered users of libraries. And there's, we factor about 10,000 residents of Lunenburg, and you've got close to 7,500 residents having cards in town. So that's pretty high. And speaks to the quality of your library, I think, and the staff there, certainly. Really interesting number that CW Mars provides us with is the value of the items. If you ever come into the library and you check out a book, if you look at the bottom of the circulation slip, not only will you see the date that it's due, but it also gives you a dollar amount that you just saved by borrowing the book rather than purchasing it. So the total of all that value for all the items that we delivered in 2013 is $1,378,000 and change. So pretty substantial. Per capita appropriation, this year, or 2013, it was $34 per capita, the cost of the library, and last year it was $35. So that's good news. In terms of our goals for the next year, 2015, definitely want to improve access to not only the information in the library, but also other resources outside the library. I believe pretty strongly that it's not just what you have on your shelves, but what you can find for people, whether it be on the web or elsewhere. Increased number of available e-resources, those e-books, audiobooks, etc., by at least 15%. Increase the number of programs that we provide to the community by 10% at least. We want to do more collaborations with other key organizations. Some examples are the schools, senior center, historical society. Definitely continue on improvements to the website, in particular content, getting more content up there, and complete our technology improvements, which is the kind of understructure for all that we do. In terms of the 2015 budget, what we have to do in the library, as all of you know, is we have to meet the required level of appropriation that the state says we must meet, and that's all done by formula. And so what my process is I do the calculations, I come up with what I think is the right number, and then I check with the state and have them verify that the number I am thinking is correct is indeed correct. And that's the number I use to put into the budget. So the state required appropriation is $361,000, 192. Off of that, I took what we project for the fines. As most of you know, the library collects fines for overdue books and other things. And the town has voted, or votes every year, to allow us to keep that money. So I've taken that off the $361,000, and that leaves us an appropriation in terms of the budget of $353,192. Of that amount, or of the total amount, 69% is salaries, and library materials, which is also required by the state. You're required to spend 16% of your overall budget for library materials, books, magazines, e-books, etc. And so that is 16%. So we're pretty much staying with what the state requires. And last of all, but definitely not least, I would like to thank, for this last year of wonderful support, the Library Board of Trustees, Friends of the Public Library, who give close to $30,000 a year in various ways to the library. A special thanks to the town hall folks who put up with me and my ceaseless amount of questions, asking all the time. And Jim Breaux and Kit Walker, as I mentioned, and our many, many volunteers that we have that work all the time doing whatever we need to get done. And certainly the residents of Lunenburg, who not only use the library, but donate money, time, and probably most important is ideas for what we need to do next. So that's it. Any questions?
Great, thank you. I do have just a couple of questions.
Yep.
You mentioned the per capita appropriation, and I see it's gone from $35 in 2012 to $34 in 2013. I assume that's calendar year?
Fiscal year.
Fiscal year, okay. That's right. So do you have a projection for 2014?
I don't, off the top of my head.
Okay.
Because, I don't. These are numbers that I get from the state and from our region, so.
And do you know how the figures for Lunenburg compare with other communities in the region?
I think we're on par with libraries that are about our size, and I'm intending to do a full look at that over time as well as with other libraries. But one of the things I need to do, I can get the same size towns, but are there other towns that people might be interested in just because they're nearby, like Shirley and Ayer,
right,
that are actually smaller than Lunenburg, but they're neighbors, so maybe that would be more interesting. So I'm going to work with the library trustees to define that set of other towns to look at,
Yeah,
and then
actually,
I can get the data.
Yeah, I think it would be helpful to see both, similar-sized towns as well
neighbors.
as surrounding towns.
All right. When I've got that all calculated out, I'll send you folks a copy.
That'd be great.
Okay.
And then I see that we're increasing the available e-resources by 15%. I think it's great to see investing in anything electronic that we can. But I'm curious how that compares. In the key indicators, you have just under 1,200 for 2012 and almost 4,500 for 2013.
It's a big leap.
Which is almost a fourfold increase. And now you're projecting 15%. That sounds pretty conservative.
Well, that's 15% that the library itself will purchase individual books and materials. The 4,500 hits are to a system called Overdrive, which the region, CW Mars, keeps up for all the residents in the region. And that we pay $1,000 a year. So that price may go up a few $100s, but not more than that. So that gives us a really rich foundation from which we can spring and buy our own materials and have our own materials
Right.
located.
Good. Anyone else?
I do. Do you guys have a number of how many people come in on a daily basis or weekly?
Yeah, we do have a people counter that on occasion dies on us, but it does keep a count of everything, and off the top of my head, I don't know.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
But I can get the number for you if you'd like.
Just curious to see what the usage is.
Pretty healthy.
Anything else from the committee?
I actually have one.
Okay.
Circulation went down a little bit, circulation line, but the reference line went up quite a bit. Is that just a different way of tracking materials?
The reference is definitely the state. These are all the numbers that I report to the state, in which triggers our state aid based on how much activity we have. And the reference transactions, they changed the way or what we need to count for those reference transactions. That's why the big jump is there.
In 2012, then just follow-up question, in 2012, was some of the stuff we now count as reference counted as general circulation?
I don't know when most of the reference materials were moved into the nonfiction collection, which does circulate. I do not know when they moved that collection or integrated that collection. But as luck would have it, I am now moving some of those materials back to the reference shelves, so they're more visible and will get used. But good point, John. Yeah.
Thanks, Martha.
Anything else, John?
I've got it. That's it. Thanks.
Anything from the public? Great. Martha, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it. We're just going to do a quick technology swap here. We may have to do that.
Between these two.
John.
Jack.
Jack. You know what I meant.
Just take up with me.
It's not reading it. You're gonna have to
Okay, start at the very beginning. We have to reboot. So, no, I don't. Okay.
Just move on to the town manager.
A situation where we have to log off of one computer in order for the photos to be seen, apparently.
Okay. Well, maybe we can take up our next order of business while we're waiting. We have minutes from February 27th. Did everyone have a chance to review them?
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course.
Motion to accept the minutes of February 27th.
Okay.
Second?
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Are we seeing progress there, or?
Of course, you know. Your toothache goes away when you go to the dentist, right? So does your
always works that
computer
way.
when you have a presentation.
Can we talk about the financial policies just briefly?
Sure.
John has taken all the latest feedback and incorporated that into what I would say is pretty close to a final draft. Perhaps just one last good read for any spelling or grammar, and I know you're going to do just some minor reformatting. We, at our next meeting, we'll be meeting with Capital Planning Committee, and we do have a section on capital planning that we'll be reviewing with them,
The process section.
right?
Yep.
So we'll see how that discussion goes, but I presume we'll have a positive discussion with them and come out with any feedback that would allow us to finalize that section. Then I think Kerry was going to have the financial folks just weigh in on some of the guidelines that we've agreed to. And at that point, we'll be ready to bring it to the Board of Selectmen.
Did we want to run it by the town manager, just to, especially on our ratios
Yeah.
prior to that, so that, especially with the borrowing, especially because we did put some numbers in.
Yeah. We had some dialogue at our last meeting with respect to the non-exempt borrowing.
Yeah.
And we came up with a proposed guideline that we wanted you to consider. And let me find the wording here.
It's on page 9.
Thank you. And you were here for the discussion when we agreed $100,000 would be the minimum threshold, useful life of greater than 10 years, or no less than 10 years, I should say. The policy we came up with last time was that the aggregate annual debt service for all assets financed in this manner would not exceed 3% of the omnibus budget or 4% of the tax levy, whichever is the lower amount. That gives you a fair amount of room from where we are right now, even considering the additional borrowing for the fire truck.
Okay.
We can get you the exact numbers, ratios.
Okay.
In fact, Brian had a chart last time. Do you have it right there? If I could? Yeah, so, regular borrowing as a percent of the net levy peaked in fiscal 13 at 3.11%.
Okay.
even with the fire truck, you would still be at perhaps 3.5% of the net levy. I mean, of the, yeah.
The tax
that's
levy.
another-
The tax levy.
The omnibus budget would be the blue line.
So the percentages that you came up with just were sort of based in the historical borrowing? Not-
Well, we took 4 years, 4 years history from, provided by Karen Brochu,
Yeah,
and compared it against the
Okay.
the tax levy and the omnibus budget, the revenue range.
We did note a rising trend line, but we also noted that in recent discussions, as we've been talking about, as the debt service comes down, already having a place that you really want to put it.
Right.
So rather than trying to bump that number higher, we figured if we kept it low, then the impetus would be to,
and that data obviously includes the financing of the DPW facility, which is significantly larger than what we would typically do, so. I mean, it seems like it would be reasonable. I just didn't know if you pulled those percentages from, some other place other than just kind of looking at the history and,
It was more looking at the history, factoring in the potential purchase of a fire truck
Yeah.
and the impact that that would have, and with a little bit of room to say, we don't know what might happen in the future. We want to arrest the trend
right.
that it's increasing as a trend and kind of put a cap on it.
Okay. Sounds good.
Good. So after our meeting with the Capital Planning Committee, we'll be close to a final draft at that point.
All right.
Okay?
Well, forgive me, this discussion does in fact highlight one other issue, and that is that we look at the two other financial planning documents of similar sized towns, one in Oxford and one in Littleton. Both of them had a introductory section where they talked, among other things, about a mechanism for reviewing these financial policies annually, just to see whether there's something that comes up that means we have to revise them because of practical considerations. And I don't know if we want to add a section that precedes the 4 policy statements.
I think some sort of an introduction
Yeah.
introduction that ties the whole thing together would make sense.
Good.
Okay. Good. Okay, next up, we have the Council on Aging, and we're pleased to have the Director, Doreen Noble, with us this evening.
Thank you. And of course, the first thing I want to do is thank all those folks that helped me out tonight. I'm glad that Kerry was here to help me out, keep me calm, and thank you, Martha, very much. And behind me, I also have Mary Lynn Conrad, the President of the Council on Aging, who has always had my back for the last 5 years that I've been of service to the town of Lunenburg. I've stood before you many times. Some of you have seen my presentations in the past. Others of you have not. What I want to do is give those of you who aren't familiar, or those in the public that aren't familiar with what the Council on Aging does, I want to give you a little bit of a rundown prior to getting into the figures. And I apologize, I had a video that was only a 2-minute video from YouTube. All the copyrights were in place, everything was fine, and I was going to show that video tonight. However, our system cannot handle it, is what they tell me in technology, so we can't see that video tonight. But anybody that wants to see it, please come on down to my office, and I'll be happy to show you a very entertaining video on aging. The mission of the Lunenburg Council on Aging is to advocate for improved quality of life for all seniors through supportive services, programs, and education. It's a very succinct mission that we try to implement every single day that we are there. Believe it or not, there are 77.3 million baby boomers in the United States at this time. The number of people over the age of 60, this is in the town of Lunenburg. In 1990, according to statistics from the Massachusetts Department of Elder Affairs, in 1990, you had 1,467 people over the age of 60. In 2000, there were 1,505 over the age of 60. And that showed a 2.6% growth. In 2010, our census was done, and when the census was completed, it showed that we had 1,815. So we had 1,815 people over the age of 60, which showed a 20.6% growth in the number of people in your town over the age of 60. So the number of people that are turning 60 in 2014, okay, it doesn't seem to be appearing. Oh, there it goes. 162 people. I would be in big trouble if I were to list the names of the residents
Yes,
that are
you would.
turning 60. But there are 162 of you this year who are having your 60th birthday. So what's happening in 6 years? That means there are 2,384 people turning 60 in the next 6 years, okay? So from 1990 to 2020, in that 20-year period, you saw 58.4% of your people turning 60 years of age. You had that much growth. Okay, the nucleus for aging well is that people need to have life activities, people need to have material security, people need to have physical health and functional status. There needs to be something to keep them cognitively efficient, and the social resources need to be there. I'm going to point out, and anybody in Town Hall who wants to challenge me on this, whenever a social problem walks into Town Hall, every single person refers them to the Council on Aging, regardless of how old they are. We are the only social service agency in this town, and that's what walks through our door. If we can help them, we try to help them as best we can. Some of the programs that we have, they're regular programs that you've seen many times. A lot of times people think that Council on Aging is simply about bingo. I'm going to point out that we play bingo 1.5 hours a day. Okay, not a day, a week, excuse me. 1.5 hours a week we play bingo. We also give transportation, tax assistance, fuel assistance, Meals on Wheels, the Fire for Life, the Triad program, which is in cooperation with the Worcester County Sheriff's Office, the Lunenburg Police Department. We offer Shine, which is serving the health insurance needs of elders. Anybody that's trying to navigate themselves through the health insurance in this day and age is it's just mind-boggling, absolutely mind-boggling. Manicures, pedicures for you gentlemen. We now have some gentlemen coming in for pedicures. Wonderful gift, okay, to give somebody. We have the Traveling Tooth Fairy who comes in. We have a speaker series, book club, reflexology, bingo, as I said, movies, BP clinic, okay, flu shots. We have friendly visitors, food stamp assistance, the pancake breakfast, ever popular in town, okay, and fitness we offer. We offer community lunch. We offer the walking club, tax assistance, cribbage, quilting, chair moves, bridge, canasta, line dancing, Wii bowling. Come challenge my 92-year-old at Wii bowling. He can blow you out of the park, okay? We also have Living Better, Living Longer, and they are mahjong, coffee shop, lunch club, dining out, and book and puzzle swap, and that's just a brief rundown. Now, what's that little thing down there in the corner? That's my rug, okay? My rug is being worn out because of the amount of traffic that we have at the Eagle House, okay? Last year, my door broke, and the reason why my door broke is because it was, as to quote Jim Baralt, we have too much activity. That door was not able to withstand that amount of activity. He also said that I have more activity than Animal House had, but I just want you to know that these are some of the things that we deal with at the Eagle House, okay? Okay, the newest program, what you saw in the Lunenburg Ledger is our new program, which is in collaboration with the Fire Department and in collaboration with the Department of Public Works, okay, is our Sand for Seniors. Now, what I cut and paste here for you today was a memo to me from my outreach worker, which reads, we service 10 homes as of today and 5 are waiting for service. Within these homes we've delivered sand, we have found most, if not all, did not have smoke detectors or CO2 detectors in working order. As you know, we had the first elderly death from a fire, and you know that recently we did have that death down on Rainey Street, okay, in 2014. So we've tried to get the message out in our town that we will deliver sand to disabled elderly if needed, and they can have someone from the Lunenburg Fire Department come and check their home and smoke detectors and the CO2 detectors. Captain Jim Reese has said that he will install them as long as they're not hardwired. So our fire department is volunteering to do this, okay? Safety is our first priority, and that comes along with an agreement that we have with the DPW to provide sand for the seniors, okay? But what happens is that they need to come to the Eagle House, get the bucket, and then what happens is that it's filled for them. And the fire department very nicely brings it over. That gives them an opportunity to check on some of the things that the seniors need to keep them safe. You can see that Jack and a couple of the other guys and I are here. I actually had an opportunity to sit behind the bulldozer this year as we built our new bocce court. Okay, so our bocce court is now out back. It's ready to go as soon as the snow melts. I don't know when that will be, but as soon as the snow melts, and that is going to be dedicated to Mario Pacciola in tribute to all the service that he has given to the community. So bocce is coming soon to the Eagle House. Okay, now we get into the money, all right? And my budget is extremely small. In 2014, I was appropriated $53,014 director salary for the director, and we will be going in at $54,601, which you can see is what the town manager recommended. Again, salaries in clerical in 14, $19,158, 15, $19,732, and again, town manager recommended $19,732. Meal site manager appropriated was $12,230, and we will be going in at $11,520, which I'll explain in a moment, and that is also town manager recommendation, and then we have longevity included in that. So that makes our total salaries for the Eagle House $94,562. Then we get into the expenses, and those of you that have been on the board do recall that the utility expenses 2 years ago, I believe, 2 fiscal years ago, or was it last fiscal year, was transferred over to buildings and facilities, okay? That's why you see all those zeros, okay? For electric, heating, water, sewer, that is not in my budget. Okay, but then we get into office equipment. You get a $1,700 in office equipment. We got that in 14. We're asking it in 15, and the town manager recommends that in 15. To use our kiosk system, our check-in system, we pay a $1,200 fee for maintenance of that system. It's a system that was purchased for $3,500 from my senior center, and that will give us some of these statistics that I am showing you tonight. So as well as that, we have office equipment. You see mock nutrition, there was a zero appropriated in FY14, and then I've come in above target at $5,000, which again I'll get into, which the town manager recommends that you fund that $5,000 that I'm asking for. $250 for postage, it's a drop in the hat. Okay, advertising, right now, we don't foresee needing any advertising, so I'm not asking for advertising money. Office supplies, $400, straight across the board. Training, $400, straight across the board. Meetings in schools, there's been some increase in fees to attend different meetings. So we've gone from $320 in FY14 up to $500, and again, it's recommended by town manager. Nothing in the programs line, which again, I will explain. Our mileage, we've gone in at asking for $3,500. Now that is Meals on Wheels mileage. There is a stipend paid to those drivers who deliver Meals on Wheels. They were getting $10 a day. We upped it to $15 a day to help pay for gasoline, okay? And again, I asked for a slight increase of $500 for that, with the subtotals down the bottom. So that makes our expenses $12,250. Total overall budget is $1,812. And I just want to give a recognition. Up in your right-hand corner is Edith Gay, who was a long-time Council on Aging member, Board of Director, who passed away this year. So Edith is looking at you and she's telling you that you need to give the Council on Aging $1,612. That is a message from heaven and from Edith. Okay, so when you look at the budget, okay, some of you have seen this. When you look at the budget, believe it or not, you guys are looking at lots of figures, okay? The Council on Aging, I've already told you the numbers of people that are coming into the Council on Aging, your number of elderly that are growing. We're not a piece of the pie. We're like that toothpick that you put in the middle that holds up the saran wrap. We're not even asking for a piece of the pie. That's how large, okay, of a portion that we take out of the town budget. So, our target budget, I was asked to come in and target at 101,312. I came in at 106,812, which is what the town which is what town manager recommends. So why am I above target? I'm above target because, first of all, we're meeting negotiated salaries. We're restoring cuts to transportation. We did cut a Friday 2 years ago out of the budget. Town offices closed on Friday. What I would like to do is extend the hours of transportation. Currently, our folks are getting transportation between 8:30 and 3:30. A lot of times, some of the elderly are not finished with their medical appointments in order to get back on time. So what I'm looking at is on 2 days a week or 3 days a week of extending that transportation time. That means I have to have the Eagle House open and the dispatcher in place. We cannot run transportation without a dispatcher. I cannot run transportation without a driver. The dispatcher is funded in part by the Regional Transit Authority. However, what I'm looking to do is increase that by about 4.5 hours so that we are safely covered while our seniors are on the road. We're delivering a lot more Meals on Wheels than we have. We have a lot more homebound elderly. So we're seeing that increase. And, you know, it's really to just pay somebody $15 for their gasoline when they're volunteering and they're driving all the miles that encompass Lunenburg to deliver those Meals on Wheels. There's about 27 meals a day that are delivered on average at the Eagle House. Okay? Our food program continues to improve with lots and lots of rave reviews. So what we're doing, let me just throw in, the cost of attending meetings has increased. That's not an argument, a point that could even be debated. You know that. So going back to why our food program. Our food program, I've been asked not to show pictures of what's been delivered for Meals on Wheels because sometimes they're quite disgusting, and excuse the expression, but that's what they are. Okay, some of the food that we get, okay, that is funded through the Title III program, through HUD, is really not something that you would feel the least bit inclined to want to eat. And there's no bones about that, okay? But what we have done is at the Eagle House, we have tried to meet more nutritional needs by introducing a soup and salad on a Monday and introducing a salad bar on a Thursday. That has been supplemented by the Friends of the Eagle, they changed the name, by the Supporters of the Eagle House, Inc. That's our 501c3. Okay, they've given me a $200 slush fund, and basically the seniors pay $2.25 for lunch, and that reimburses that program. If they are getting the MOC, the Montechusett Opportunity Council meal, that's provided by Bateman's Catering, which we have a contract with. Okay, those are the people that I make no bones about it. I would not feed that to my worst enemy, and I say that quite loudly. Okay, that is a contract that they have, that MOC has, that we cannot do without. Why can't we do without it? Because it would turn around and cost us another probably $25,000 to $30,000 to fund a nutrition program, because they also supply us with all the paper goods. They supply us with everything that we need to send out, to send out the food. And if we were to have to buy that, and we were to have to purchase those things and prepare those things, we would have to hire a nutritionist. We would also have to hire better people for food preparation. By that I mean more serve-safe personnel. So the food comes in and it's already packed and it's ready, and what we do, it comes in like a caterer, and we pack it up to be sent out. So if we had to buy all of that, okay, or we had to supervise a nutrition program, and we had to make sure that the food met USDA standards from start to finish, except from delivery, okay, we would be talking about a $30,000 program to deliver those 27 meals a day. So we go the 4 days a week with MOC, delivering Meals on Wheels. But 2 days a week, we offer alternatives at the Eagle House. That's why I'm asking for a $5,000 increase in food services, because food is very important to people, and what is on somebody's plate is very important, and we're getting more people staying for lunch and more people wanting to enjoy the activities that are at the Eagle House, and it makes a point where we can bridge from morning programs into afternoon programs. And with the number of baby boomers, they want to see more alternative choices. So how am I saving money? The seniors donate tons of stuff to the senior center, okay? They're always coming in and they say, I want it bingo, here's some file folders. I want it bingo, here's some paper clips. I want it bingo, here's some coffee cups, okay? They bring us the paper towels. They bring us copy paper. They bring us coffee creamer, stamps, drinks, cleaning supplies, etc. And then our 501c3, again, the Supporters of the Eagle House, Inc., they provide things like the entertainers that come in for us, okay? But entertainment fees are extremely high, okay? They just purchased a flat screen TV that goes up, that's for an electronic bingo. Electronic bingo makes it easier for our vision and our hearing impaired people to see bingo, okay? They pay for the water, which is the bottled water that comes into the place, which our people use for exercises, use in the summer, okay? They pay for coffee. They've given me the $200 slush fund to use for that. They pay for the volunteer barbecue. They pay for the landscaping around Eagle House, and they pay for a yearly newsletter mailing. Again, you can see the differences in our food program. There's a couple of our ladies there preparing food, serving up, and these were photographs taken from today. Okay, so our lunch participants, those blocks, I had a little trouble with my spreadsheets today, but those little blocks, they basically stand for 5. So on Thursdays, we see 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 people coming in for a meal. Mondays, 5, 10, 15, okay? Monday is soup and sandwiches made at the Eagle House, okay? Thursday is not soup and sandwiches. Thursday is a combination of the mock meal and the salad bar. Tuesday, mock meal, 10 or less. Wednesday, mock meal, 10 or less. This week, I heard you ask for figures, so I just asked Sue Doherty, my administrative assistant, who I would not be able to live without, and I give a shout out to Sue. And so this week, we delivered 127 Meals on Wheels. Okay? We made a total of 66 rides. 15 of them were medical appointments, 17 people went shopping for their groceries, 24 went other places. Okay? So, who walked in the door? We had 207 people walk in the door. So today, we had a total of 58 participants in our programs, and our average monthly participation is about 600. Just wanted to show you a couple of other folks that use the center, that enjoy it. I want to let you know that I am assured that spring will eventually come, okay? And I'll leave you with that, because I think it's much better to look at than the figures that you look at. But anyway, do you have any questions for me?
I have a bit of a comment and maybe a question in there as well. I'm impressed with your passion and energy, as I am every year when you come before us. And it seems like the programs go up every year. There's more programs, but the funding does not. Very minor increases year over year in the budget. I guess I'm curious how we might compare, how the town of Lunenburg might compare to other communities. We just talked with the library director about how we might compare both with the surrounding communities and with communities of a similar size. Do you have a sense for that? How does the Eagle House compare with other local councils on aging?
Your comparison, Mark, what category of comparison are you asking?
I'm thinking in terms of the overall budget and the number of programs that are offered. I'd be surprised if another town could offer anywhere near the number of programs that you are at the budget that you are.
Well, thank you. Let me say this. I sit on the I sit as an executive director on the Massachusetts Councils on Aging, and in general, councils on aging are very underfunded. There's no doubt about it in the state. However, the Eagle House and the Lunenburg Council on Aging is the most vibrant and active senior center in the area. We offer many programs, more than what other senior centers do offer. We have a issue where we have to juggle people around. We have vendors that want to come in, and they're on waiting lists to come in to the Eagle House to put on programs. When I start off a talk with my peers and I say the Eagle House is the most vibrant and active senior center in central Massachusetts, I have staff that mumble to me and say, you know, they hate you. And they do, okay? But we are a success. There's no doubt about it. We are a success on a very minimal budget. And we try to provide as much service as we can. I had a discussion with town manager a few minutes ago. We talked about the non-residents who use the Eagle House, because the reputation of the Eagle House surpasses a lot of the other senior centers, so they do come in from other towns, and I'd be amiss not to say that other senior centers don't have non-residents that come into their senior centers. But one of the things that we discussed is the possibility of a non-resident fee. And one of the suggestions that was made to me by Faith Anderson, and I'm always willing to credit my staff when they make a great suggestion, one of the suggestions that was made to me by Faith is that we get a formula grant on a yearly basis from the Executive Office of Elder Affairs. Our formula grant, okay, on top of the 1,006 that I'm standing before you asking, is 16,800 and change. That is based on the formula of between $7 and $8 per elder, in your town. That's where they come up with that fee, okay? So we do have some of our elders that aren't using our services, granted, but the state gives us, and that really depends, again, on how much work the Mass Council on Aging does, for which I stand on the board, to which we try and advocate in front of the legislature to give us between $7 and $8 a year. Sometimes it's $7.25, sometimes it's $7.50, $8 is the max that we've ever gotten, okay? $8 a year. One of the things that I propose for revenue, which I have not had an opportunity to speak with Council on Aging, but I just chatted with town managers, can we look at an out-of-town resident fee of $8 per year based upon the formula grant? One of the other things the town manager and I have chatted about is looking at doing collaborations with other councils on aging, because we are open the 4 days a week. We're trying to see if there's a way that we might be able to blend some of the other councils on aging and blend some of the services. But our physical being is exhausted. Our staff is exhausted. We take lunch breaks right in the fishbowl, for lack of a better term, because we are a three-legged stool, and that stands for the 3 staff members that are there. And if one of those legs are missing, it can topple in a second because of the numbers that we see coming into the building. So how do we compare? I'm going to say I'm my own worst enemy.
Thank you. Other questions from the committee?
No, actually, I have no questions, but I do agree that you, and certainly in the 2 years that I've been watching, you guys do so much with so little. It's incredible. And I guess I will go back to, just for point of clarification, the 16.8 is on top of, and that is used to help support the position of?
Yes, yeah. And I don't put those figures up here.
Sure.
Because we're talking about town budget, okay?
Right.
So town budget, we're in asking for 106K roughly, okay? 16,800 comes from the Massachusetts Department of Elder Affairs.
Right.
That supplements, okay, the Meals on Wheels mileage, for which I asked for 4,000 from you folks. I'm taking 4,000 out of that grant. Okay, the outreach worker.
Right,
Our
that's
outreach
what I was-
worker is paid the majority of her funds for that, okay? As well as, you saw 2 ladies that we just put on 2 new positions in the kitchen, dietary aides. We have a food service coordinator who needs to be Serve Safe certified, but I also have dietary aides who do the washing of dishes, the chopping of vegetables, and they are paid out of that formula grant for approximately 16 hours a week. So we are paying salaries out of that, as well as mileage reimbursement. The other thing that I will say is that the Regional Transit Authority, okay, supplements our transportation system, and of course, that's based on our assessment, and the Regional Transit Authority owns the van that you see driving around town, and they pay the drivers and part of the dispatcher, but those folks are employees of the town of Lunenburg, and we are reimbursed by them. That approximately is about $3,100 a month, okay?
Okay.
Any other questions?
Any questions from the public? Okay,
Okay, thank you very much for your time.
thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks for the pictures of spring flowers. Something to look forward to.
Oh, would you give me a... Yep, I will.
I thought I saw Jack a moment ago. Yep.
He's in the green room.
The green room.
While we're in transition, do we have any committee or department updates?
You just had one of mine.
Yes?
Council on Aging,
Yeah.
Modern Tech will be here in 2 weeks, and I have not followed up with the Agricultural Commission.
Okay.
Got your own equipment, Jeff?
And for
John,
me,
anything to
public
report?
access cable is only expenditures to date through, almost through the entire month of January, so that's 7 out of 12 months, are only at, budgeted was 108,000, and their actual is 23,000. So really low. I don't know what, they'll probably end up with quite a surplus at this rate, although it's probably just deferring equipment, capital purchases they had in the budget for either later on this year or next. So I don't know how sustained, how persistent the overage is, but for now, they're not anywhere near their budgeted number.
Okay. Terry?
I'm sorry, no, I don't have any dates.
Okay, and I don't have anything to report other than the school building committee is scheduled to meet next Wednesday. So I'll have a report when we get together next week.
I almost forgot I was taking minutes.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's not good. Yeah, thank you.
Did you grab 2 extra? Yeah.
I'm gonna hang. They're right here.
I'll grab those. Okay, next up, we have the Department of Public Works, and we have Director Jack Rodriguez with us this evening.
Okay, does everybody have one?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Chairman, just give me one moment, please.
Wow.
We're probably going to move around a little bit. Sure. I didn't bring any batteries tonight.
Thanks, John.
Okay. How are you?
Good. Good evening.
Good. Really been looking forward to this. So I know we're the last folks here tonight, so I hope you're not getting tired, but we'll try to keep you on the edge of your seat for a little bit. Typically, I'm death against reading something. I really think you lose your audience. But I found this few paragraphs only from the American Public Works Association this year, and it fits so well with what we're trying to accomplish tonight that I was hoping you'd bear with me as I read it. Spontaneity will continue momentarily.
Fair enough.
Public Works staff is either working or on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year to respond to any weather, infrastructure, or facility-related emergency that may arise. In the upcoming year, we will strive to enhance the awareness of the Public Works provides to our town and ensure others are aware of our contribution. This is not for an expectation of praise, but rather to make sure efforts are not forgotten as they merge into the fabric of our everyday service. Major events over the past years have highlighted the fact that Public Works has a seat at the table and is a major player in any emergency management. Town officials, police, and fire acknowledge that Public Works is critical in order to facilitate the required services of others, and we need to continue to build on this awareness. This department must also reach out to the public we serve and educate them to the fact that the common services they receive do not just happen, but rather are the efforts of a dedicated staff of individuals, service companies, and vendors. Safe roadways, wastewater control, solid waste collection and recycling operations, tree removal, stormwater management, facilities and grounds, winter snow and ice removal, cemeteries and parks are the expected services supporting everyone in the community. We as a group will work to engage the public in order to set reasonable expectations and gather support for annual budget requests, capital requests, and specific projects. I saw that, it was dead on, so we'll go from there. Back to spontaneity, which is certainly not going to be as eloquent. Snow events. We're going to start with something that's pretty timely. I don't know if it's doing anything out there now, but everyone's aware of the kind of winter we're into. We're hoping it's done, but I'm not exactly sure. This, I think, on your graphic is a little more clear. It doesn't look like the days came up, but since you all have a copy, this is a simple blackout of when the storm started in November, December, January, and February, and each one is a snow and ice or snow event. It's not necessarily the 36 or the 42-hour storms, but it gives you an idea of the frequency, particularly in December, January, and February, which I'm sure you're painfully aware. And if you do look at the weekends, particularly in January and some in December, they're pretty lengthy. So, I mean, before I get into this, I would be remiss as the manager, director of Public Works, if I didn't mention and praise the staff that I have and the good job they've done. These are extremely dedicated individuals, and they work. It's nothing for them to come into work on a Wednesday, say goodbye to their families, and come back home on a Friday. This year in particular, that's been the rule rather than the exception. We don't work in shifts. There's no substitutes. Even though cities and towns are trying to engage mutual aid, there is none, because typically if we have a storm. So there's none of the safety nets that other departments may have and use very well. If the storm starts at 7 o'clock and goes till 7 o'clock 2 hours later, we're there. These are the people that are doing it for you around the clock. And they've done a phenomenal job. The dedication, the efficiency, the stick-to-itiveness is just incredible. We have wonderful, wonderful vendors as well, but I want to make clear to you that the dedication shown by these people this year has just been absolutely phenomenal. Right, the snow tracker. Last year, I had some goals, or a few goals, that I brought to this committee and to the town manager, and one of them was clearer documentation of everything we do in the department. And one thing we've done quite well, I think, and we've achieved that goal, is what we call our snow event tracker. And again, you can see it more clearly on your graphic. What this is that every day or night, but every date that we have an event, you'll notice it has a start time and end time. The loads are more of an in-house function. It tells us what the loads of salt and sand. The contract is whether we use them or not, whether it was snow or ice, the depth, and in the comment gives a short blurb on exactly what it was. So we can go back. We hope to go back, and we just started this. We can go back year after year, or month after month, or day after day, and we can explain to you, show you where your money's going. It's not just a function of what we've done, but a function of where your money is being spent. In your packets also, there are elements of this presentation that I'm not going to go through. It would be very boring for you, but each one gives you a little example, the date times, the start times, a little light reading for you if you want to look that over at some time. But it's worked out very well. My administrative assistant has put all this together graphically, and it's a function of our snow foreman who fills it out, and then we review it. We have a post-storm meeting, go over the things that we feel we did correctly, the things that we didn't do correctly, how we can improve. So we approach the whole season as one storm at a time, and how we can do better the next storm. And as I said, I think that this is proven. Hopefully the winter is over, especially as we get into the numbers, that this has been an effective tool for us. Another, maybe an amplification of the cost that might be interesting to you is, if it starts to snow or if there's an ice situation, what is the cost? What does it break down to its simplest parts? So if we get a call in the middle of the night, if it's during the day, we go out ourselves, the clock starts ticking at $3,400 an hour. That's our people, the contractors, and the material. And not to confuse you, but by contractual agreement with our people and with our contractors, it's at a 4-hour minimum, not that storms go any less than 4 hours. But so as soon as you pull that trigger and everybody's out, it's costing the town $9,000 an hour. So when you think back about those storms that are 20, 30, 40 hours at a whack, you'll get some idea of where this money is being spent. Now the ugly page. Understand that this, in the middle, it's year to date. We stopped adding on 2.5 because we had to stop somewhere. So understand that the numbers I'm going to give you are to increase because we had a couple of significant events since then. It's broken down into our overtime, contracted service, supplies, and hired equipment. We didn't use anything hired equipment. That would have been typically big loaders and big trucks if we had to do a lot of snow removal. But what we did spend a lot of money on, and you'll see, are the others. And at this point in time, I can tell you, and there's no beating around the bush on it, that we're going to be in excess of $200,000 over our snow allotment this year. There's no simple way to tell you this. We work as efficiently as we can. We're up against Mother Nature. She calls the shots. And the people here in Lunenburg have an expectation of a curb-to-curb cleaning, and that's what we get, and that's what we try to achieve on every storm. And this is what that sort of service costs you. You will notice, though, as you look at these totals, which are extraordinary, that the least total is the labor for our own people. Also add behind that, you'll see this, what I added is Guide to Winter Operations. This is something that I put together many years ago. Some of you may be aware of it, some not. It's something that's on our website, and it gives residents a rough idea, or in some cases a detailed idea of what we do so that they better understand what's going on when the snow is flying. So I guess I should have said this at first, and I'd really like to do it, is to wait, typically you to wait till the end for questions, because not so much you, but for me, I can really go off on a tangent, and I think I'm going to have all I can do to get it in the amount of time. Nobody's going anywhere, right? Okay, the budget, yeah, thanks, Amanda. To the budget as a whole, and to the target number that we were given by the town manager, which she explained in detail earlier in the week. We were able to fund the target number. Frankly, it's right out of the gate, it's fairly, I want to say, let's say it's less difficult when the town manager gives us a target number and we can shoot for it. Because I can remember the days, not in the too distant past where we were asked to do multiple budgets. We were asked to do, well, what would you do with a 3% increase? What would decrease? What would you do with a 10% decrease? Sometimes it was a 5% decrease. Sometimes it was level funding, and then, or something to the effect of, well, level service. But it was very confusing, and I think this is a credit to the town manager, and it certainly, as I said, makes it less difficult for us. But one thing I want to caution you all on, and I say this each year because it seems to be getting more, I noticed from her presentation, a little more gray, and that's that don't ever confuse level service with level budget. Just don't be confused. That was pretty clear as we started into that, into those years where it became sort of the catchphrase, as descriptive as it was. But I think now we've jumped from level service, or it's maybe only semantics, but I think it's important to make the distinction of adequate service. Level service, level fund, that's gone. What is it going to cost us to provide an adequate service, and what is your opinion of what adequate service is? And I think if we begin to think of it in those kinds of terms, you'll better understand how the whole thing is underfunded. Just because, and it's very difficult for the town manager and you and the selectmen to balance the budget. I'm not insensitive to that, but don't think for a second that at least I feel is giving a service of adequacy throughout my department. Now, I'm not going to go line for line on the budget. You know it as well as I do. I am hoping that if you do have comments, or we can ask or answer what we can tonight, but email, stop down. Mr. Chairman, I would hope that you or I could distribute to the package to the people that weren't here tonight. And please, I'll make the offer. If they'd like to come down, I'd be happy to discuss parts or all of the presentation with them. They weren't able to make it tonight. But there were three things in the budget. Well, there are a number of things that concern me, but three things that jump out are tree removal. Now, that may seem to be some sort of an obscure part of the budget to speak on, but really that's very, very important because, frankly, I think, myself included, that the whole town's been traumatized by the 2008 ice storm. I can tell you when the wind begins to blow or it's an icy storm, the phone is off the hook. What about that limb? What about that tree? What's going to happen to it? Because they've seen it happen. Not only are they nervous that it may happen, they've seen it happen. Things have been destroyed by that. So another disadvantage of the 2008 ice storm, one may say, well, it culled out all the deadwood. Well, that's not entirely true because the deadwood stands and the healthy trees were split. And we're still feeling the ramifications of that storm. And we've never really determined that the tree line has been adequate. We have never, what we should be doing is we should be going through every street, do a tree survey of every street, of every tree in the right-of-way. They should be prioritized just as any other task would be, and then we could work on them, we could put a number on the budget. What's happened here, and it's happened in so many other cases in the department, is that we become a reactionary department. Tree limb falls, we pick it up. It's cracked, we cut it. We never get ahead of the curve and say, okay, prioritize, this is area A, B, C, or D. These are our prioritizations. This is the money we need to go this year, this year, this year. But to do that, we need a survey. So I bring up the tree removal budget because we're always low. There are always 3 or 4 or 6 items, trees, branches that we carry over into the next year. And this is also one of those services that people can see. This is a very tangible service. They see a limb, it's over their house. They really want to have it cut. Even if you know it's a healthy limb, they want to have it cut because it makes them nervous. And every time they see it, it makes them nervous. And every time the wind blows, they get more nervous. They're looking for a service. This is a service that we can provide. This is something that people can wrap their arms around. That's what I call a core service. These are necessary things. The sign mandate, I only have that in there because it was brought up by Mr. Henshaw and I wasn't here to answer it. And John, I have to apologize. I thought there was going to be more time between Kerry's presentation and mine, and I was hoping to have you in, but it's only a few days, and I wasn't really comfortable discussing it with you until she presented it. So I owe you an apology for that. Mr. Henshaw has been great. He's come down. We've exchanged some ideas, and one of his concerns was the sign mandate. And simply stated, we are in complete compliance with the state and the federal government in terms of our sign program. Now, did the sign program identify a large number of signs and posts in areas that need attention? Yes. But the plan is in phases, and the first phase is to have a survey so that you identify your problems, and then you set a plan out to fix those problems. So this way I can put out a schedule, a work order, and attack those. The state understands fundings are low, funds are low, so we can do as many as we can. If one breaks, graffiti gets stolen, then we do replace it with a compliant sign. But understand that compliance is key, and we are compliant. We're compliant with our capped landfill, the EPA. We're compliant with the Division of Dam Safety in the Lake Shirley Dam, which is not to say we're overly compliant. We're compliant. We're where we should be. Could we do more? I think we could. But are we looking at going out and doing 70 or 80% of our signs in one fell swoop? No, we're not. And that's why I'm not coming for a huge bump or any bump in the sign line, because we have $800, probably almost $1,000 there, and we'll peck away at that. Now, if it looks like the MUTCD is going to go for more compliance and becomes more aggressive in the mandate, I'll be coming back for that, because we need to be compliant. Now for the one that okay, he skipped right over the road repairs. You know I'm going to get to that, so let's jump into the next slide. We're not getting off easy on the road repairs tonight. This is something that a graphic that, go ahead, Doreen. It's only the budget. This is something that I just lost my train of thought. I'm thinking about bingo. No, bingo. There you go. 45 minutes a week, bingo? Not enough time. Okay, in 1995, this kind of channels out from road repairs. The general highway budget, which is dedicated, and we'll get to how much of that is actually dedicated to road repairs, but for the sake of this slide, in 1995, the allocation to the highway department was $129.5. In 2013, which is when I presented this slide, the omnibus budget had grown from $11,306,000 to $27,400,000, and the general highway allotment for road repairs had gone from $129.5 to $135. Now, I don't know, I told myself I wasn't going to editorialize with this presentation, but I think the numbers speak for themselves. As the budget doubled and nearly tripled, the town felt that $1,000 or so would be enough to increase. It's just disproportionate. It's totally disproportionate. You wonder why we are where we are. You need only to look at this. And if you jump ahead to 2015, the budget has gone from 11 million to 31 million, and if you deduct the 127,000 that the town manager has put in, dedicated specifically to road repairs in the pavement management plan, then you're back at that 131,000. So, I mean, just look at these numbers. 95, 20 years, the town has increased its general highway maintenance from $129,500,000, $129,500 to $131. This is crazy. Why are our roads the way they are? Because the town dedicates $130,000 towards a $60 million infrastructure? Again, I won't editorialize. Now, the town manager has, at the very least, brought attention to this and keeps it in the conversation by dedicating an amount. Now, she and I have had this conversation, and far be it for me to contradict or go against my boss, but if you put, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, thank you for the slide, I'm getting a little ahead of myself with that. Amanda's very good at keeping me in line, by the way. It's, do I dare call it an insignificant number? But we'll get to that on the numbers of the overall. This is, this slide I also had in a couple of years ago, and I thought it was worthwhile because since we have gone through this just recently, and I'm sure you saw it in the paper, it wasn't well represented, I thought, but we aren't able to give away salt and sand now because of the restrictions that we have for deliveries, and most people do understand, but oftentimes in public works we get the, and I'm sure you do as selectmen or FinCom people, you know, my God, I pay all these taxes and I can't even get a bucket of sand. Well, here's an indication of where the sand sits, and I couldn't help but Doreen say she doesn't even have a piece of the pie. She has a sliver, but if you look at the overall omnibus budget, the DPW share of that is 5%. So for those out there who may or may not be listening, so for every dollar you pay in taxes, we get a nickel. Okay, I'm not going to disagree where the money goes. It's well spent, or who gets what. There are people that are in charge of doing those things. I just want to let people know that we get a nickel on every dollar. And furthermore, if you take that nickel and you cut it up within our own budget, the general highway is 12%. So of that nickel of every dollar you spend on taxes, less than a penny of it goes to road repairs. So, you know, I think that puts it in some sort of perspective as to what the priorities have been in this town in terms of funding and in terms of taking care of that roadway infrastructure. So there should be no surprise as you hit those potholes on the way home tonight. And be sure to call them in, by the way. Now, as you know, we do have a pavement management plan, and we're very pleased with that. It was something that the selectmen felt was important. So through the town manager, said that we should do that. It was I hesitate to say I wasn't for it at first, but now I'm sold on it completely. It was over 5 years ago. In fact, currently we're working with an engineer to update the database. I had mentioned when we did the original pavement management plan that it would need to be reviewed every 5 years, and we're under that review now. But not only are reviewing the plan, we're also doing a database. We have our plan is entirely paper now, which is, you know, cumbersome at best. Excuse me, and we don't have it in place completely, but I can promise you once we get through this budget process and the dust sort of settles, we'll be coming back with a very detailed presentation on what the new pavement management plan is. As it says here, it'll be integrated into the town mapping system, be a point-and-click situation. And now we get into those numbers of that I alluded to before. The industry standard is $700,000 per mile for roadway. That's what it's valued at, like a real estate appraisal. Ours comes out to just over 60 million. Presently, and the pavement management plan will show this, presently we have a $10 million backlog in terms of repairs that should be done right now just to get us up to, say, 80%, 85% of what they call rideability, if you will. So looking at that $10 million backlog, I just want to, it may be somewhat redundant, but I want to let you know what's happening with the town here in terms of what they're putting it towards us, what they're putting toward this. The state and local funding, that's the Chapter 90 funding, which is up to $422,000. I'm going on last year's numbers because until I have it this year, you never really have it till you have it. The governor decides how much of those he's going to allocate, and et cetera, et cetera. The pavement management line that the town manager has added, that's the $127,000. And you would say, well, of the $130,000, that's general highway. Well, this is where, as I alluded to before, it's not the $130,000 that goes to highway repairs. Out of that account comes drainage repairs, and rehabilitation, hired equipment, if we need larger equipment that we don't have in town. Police, excuse me, police details were $10,000 last year. And then miscellaneous reimbursements, tools, lumber, mulch, it's sort of a catch-all line in the budget. And so what you actually have, and we went over this, Amanda and I, and this is really a mild estimate. What we've come up to is out of that 130, there's probably about $82,000 that goes directly to road repairs. So, I mean, I'm not going to go back and revisit that graph on 130, but what you're actually getting out of there is $80,000. So what the town allocates to repair its roads is $80,000 a year. The grand total of everything, the state and that, is this year, or last year into this year, will be $632,000. We're putting that against a $10 million backlog. This is another graphic that I use on a regular basis. Excuse me. Since I came to this town 20 years ago, there are some roads that haven't been paved. What this shows you is that, you notice the years at the bottom, if we had, or if we ever planned to keep up with our pavement management and the plan dedicated to such, will show you that in the first 8 or 10 years, a repair that costs you $1 will, after 16 years to 20 years, cost you $5 to $8. Now those are old numbers, but what that means is the road stays in fairly good condition for the first 8 to 10 years, then it drops like a stone. So obviously, if we've not even addressed certain roads in 20 years, and we don't address roads in 16 years, you can see where it's likely that most of our roads, or a good portion of our roads, are down at that bottom. I have to catch up here. Where are we, Amanda? Oh, are we? Oh, moving right along. Bear with me. There's a lot of information here. The next thing I'd like to address is the capital plan. Seems that's been a hot topic recently. I just like to start these comments by expressing a great deal of thanks to anybody that serves on the Capital Planning Committee, and to Marion Benson, who has been on that committee, for I don't know how long, and the resident person that's on that committee, and the selectmen who have to deal with these same issues, as well as the town manager, because for as long as I can remember, the Capital Planning Committee is tasked with seeing this amount of money and twice as many requests, at least twice as many. I don't remember the exact numbers from Kerry the other night, but it's at least doubled. And this is difficult in these times, or any times. It's very difficult because department heads don't go in there with any sort of wish list. They go in there because they need things, and these needs are to provide services in their particular department, in my department, that the people deserve. And those numbers are extraordinary compared to the numbers of the available funds. So these folks that work on that are deserving of much credit. I'm going to speak specifically to the street sweeper that was on that list. Seems I've lost you, Amanda. But as long as you keep up with it there, maybe you can help me out and get on the right one. Street sweeper for us is something that I've had it at the top of the list for 2 years now. Last year, I presented the slide that Amanda is going to find, if we can find it. that it's a core service to the public. It's what the public, another one of those tangible services they can see what's going on. But beyond the service to the public, which is necessary, there's also an environmental impact, which is even more significant. We've put, no, I'll go from the graph on here. This has been a pretty intense year for storms, so the number if we've put on our roadways is approximately 6,000 yards. That's cubic yards spread all over town, and it just needs to be picked up. It needs to be picked up for a lot of reasons. It's a danger to the community, people on bicycles, people on motorcycles, people in cars, on corners, and is the single, not a very scientific survey was done, but it's the single largest, there are more calls about street sweeping than there is for anything else. More than potholes, more than anything else. As soon as that last flake flies, excuse me, why don't we just get one of the new ones? If there's any left. They don't have it here? Yeah, but I've got my notes on that. Oh yeah, wouldn't have my notes on that one, would I? No, okay. Let me tell you, a lot of work went into that. Amanda's done a great job. Is the environmental impact of it too. Okay, you know what? Let's just work from the slides. Bear with me. Okay, the environmental component of that. All right. What happens if we do not successfully sweep the roads? If for some reason, and I'll get to the purchase and all of that in a moment, but let's just say that we're unable to fill our obligation and provide this service to our residents. What will happen is the sand will accumulate on the roads. I don't know if you can see that photograph very well. That was taken last week. We're not even near sweeping, and that silt is just running into that catch basin. The flow restrictions will get into the pipe. This is probably 150 feet from Malpas Brook. This sediment is going to get into Malpas Brook. It'll have a negative impact on the fish species and any other aquatic ecosystems. And this siltation and sediment through the EPA has been cited as one of the leading causes of water quality impairments. So that's just a number of bullets that tells you if the salt and the sand gets into your wetlands or into your streams or lakes, it's not a good thing. If we're failing with our street sweeping, if we're not right on it, that's our first offense against this happening. Our catch basin cleaner is always at work when it's able to do so. We clean around the lakes in the spring, and we clean around the lakes in sensitive areas in the fall. And we have all we can do to keep up with it. And frankly, I'm not sure we're able to keep up with it 100%. But certainly, if we don't have the tool to sweep, these kind of things are going to happen. And they're going to impact your environment detrimentally. We have a stormwater mandate through the EPA, and I have to fill out a yearly report. Part of it is a good housekeeping report. And I'll just have to tell them that we're not sweeping the streets like we should because we have a 20-year-old piece of equipment. And if it gets through the year, great. If it doesn't, which is likely it won't, we're kind of stuck there. I'm going to offer you some different numbers that apparently were lacking. There was, let me just bring you all up to date on this. Last year, when I went to the Capital Planning Committee, there are these forms that we fill out, and on the back of the form it says other options. Mutual aid, which we can't do. Leasing, which we can't unless we lease to buy. Renting, they don't rent sweepers because they take such a pounding. and outsourcing. And I didn't feel at that point, and I put it on the form, that outsourcing was a viable option. Because I had done some research, I made that research available to that committee. Unfortunately, there are some people in this year's committee that were not on that committee, and apparently I was not clear. I apologize for that. I do have those numbers tonight. They're numbers that are consistent with the numbers I provided to the town manager last year. It's $120 per hour, and that involves the sweeper and the driver. If we don't supply the truck and we totally outsource it, it's another $120 per hour. So the big number, which it would seem realistically would help with that. So the smaller number, the way they do this in the industry is they say that 1 lane mile per hour is pretty much how they judge that. Now, there are a lot of variables which I'll get into, but you have to start somewhere. That's going to be around $22,800. That's one pass, and that doesn't include the parking lots, which we do all the buildings, schools, and everything. So, you know, if you put on another week onto that, your numbers are around $27,600. I think this is a low estimate. I know this is a low estimate because the 4 different companies that I spoke with just recently has said, well, you know what kind of a winter we've had, kids. So, I mean, one pass isn't going to do it. I know from doing this for 20 years that one pass isn't going to do it. So it isn't going to be an hour for 1 mile. The variables are the amount of sand, and I just told you we put down more sand this year, I think, than we ever have, or sand and salt. So that number is going to be low. And the other variable is the ragged pavement. He says, well, what shape are your roads in? Well, I just gave you 20 minutes on the shape of the roads. So if the roads are ragged, it's going to pick up less successfully. So you'll have to keep going over it and over it and over it. That's why I stand here today and I tell you, as I told some, and obviously the message didn't get through, so again, I apologize, that it's going to be on the low side, $32,000, $35,000 a year, at least for the first year and up. I think that's a low estimate. And then there are other things we do besides sweeping the streets and removing the sand from the streets. If we're called out an emergency, the fire, the police have to do something, have an accident, we have to run down and sweep it up. We have to put sand and sweep it up to pick up the oil. And as we pave and we get into our paving program, we sweep the streets before, just in front of the paver, and if there's 2 layers, we sweep again, particularly in the fall when there's leaves or there's any sort of storm, because the asphalt won't adhere if there's that film, and we've always jumped right out in front of our vendor and swept the streets. So I couldn't even tell you. I couldn't find anybody at Keating's, but I imagine it'd be consistent, so every time we have to go out there, the day rate on a sweeper is 8 times 120. More importantly than the 120, or the 8 times 120, I think is the availability. When we have to provide service to the police or fire, we're not going to be able to in a timely manner. And when we have to have a sweeper now for paving, or tomorrow because the paving got moved around a little bit, which it does all the time, it's not going to be there. The price on the sweeper has gone up since I last brought it to the town manager, excuse me, and the commission. It's at $184,000 now. I figure if we're sweeping somewhere around $35,000 a year, I mean, do the math. Is that number going to go up over the next 4, 5, 6, 10 years? It's likely with fuel and whatnot. We kept this machine for 20 years. 20 years at $30,000, $600,000. We will have paid for this machine over and over and over again. If we only keep it for 15 years, even at $30,000 a year for outsourcing, that's $450,000. So maybe there's 2.5. It just doesn't seem to me to be money well spent. I understand the prioritization. I do. And credit where credit is due for those folks. But apparently I struggle with this because apparently my message isn't getting through. But I can tell you, it's a core service. It's what we provide. We're a Department of Public Works. 351 communities in the state sweep the streets. Do they all have their own sweeper? No, they don't. And I'm a big fan of outsourcing because, to me, I throw the number in the budget. I can see that the job is being done well. It's done. But this is one of those services when people call, they want their street swept, they want it swept now. And we like to provide that service. Oh, the sweeper just went by. And I wanted to shovel this, so we go by and we hit it again. We're a service-oriented department. We provide a service. And if this isn't something that functions well for the Department of Public Works, then I think it's sad testimony to where we are as a town that we don't provide this service to our residents. Last year, I also came before the committee and the town manager and said it's going to take $11,000 to get that up and running. Last year, $9,000 to get it up and running. It actually went to 11 because it's like most old pieces of equipment. Once you get into it, you find other things. We did put the $11,000 into it, and we got the whole year out of it with some minor repairs. This year, upon close inspection, it's going to need an air conditioner air filtration unit. And this is where I draw the line. This is not for sheer comfort of the driver. This is for health reasons. He or she is in that unit, surrounded by dust, with the sun beating down like a greenhouse. There has to be an air filtration unit, and there has to be air temperature control. Estimates that I just got today from the manufacturer, $6,000 to provide that service to that machine. The reason why part of it is so high is because the machine is so old, they have to retrofit a new unit. The unit that was originally made for that machine is not available anymore. In the industry, it's typical that these machines are rotated 8 to 12 years because they worked so hard. It's only a seasonal piece, but it's worked very hard. We've got ours at 20 years. I think we've gotten our service out of it. The current unit value is low, on the low side, like the Blue Book value is around $7,000 to $8,500. We put $11,000 into it last year. We're looking at putting at least $5,000 or $6,000 in here this year to get it going. If I had thought the outsourcing was a possibility, the town manager would have spoken to me about it. But at this point in time, she did not. And so we didn't talk about it in the budget. If you want to try the outsourcing, I'll do my best. I'm here to serve you, the Board of Selectmen, the town manager. But now we're going to have to turn around and maybe look for that $35,000. And it's an open-end contract. I can't come here and tell you it's going to be 25, 32. Geez, we had to do more on this road or that road. What if it goes up to 38? I'm not prepared to put that into the budget. I don't think, given the town manager's report, that she's prepared to put that in the budget. So we're in a mess here with this. And I hope, if I haven't been clear, I will try again. I will speak to anybody individually, email, telephone. Please stop down and see me. There seems to be a disconnect here, and believe me, there's no malice on anyone's part. I don't take it as such. But there's an obvious disconnect as to what I provided or what was provided by the town manager or something. There's no finger pointing here. It's just the message isn't getting through. So I hope I've been more clear tonight.
Jack, can I ask for some clarification while you're there?
Sure.
So our current street sweeper will be operational, you think, for the entire season this year? Or there is more of a possibility that it will not be?
What I can tell you definitively tonight is that it's going to take $5,000 to get it out of the garage. It's 20 years old. We have our mechanic crawling all over it today. We just don't know. It's a mass of gears and chains and hydraulic fittings. I don't gamble, so I'm not going to give you a percentage on whether it will. We can only hope. It's been well cared for. But just like your own car, or truck, if it's 20 years old and you look to replace it last year, I would ask you, what's your level of confidence?
Pretty low.
Okay. Okay. As I said, I hope that's more clear, and I'm certainly open. So I'm going to try to pick up the pace here because you're probably getting a little tired of it at this point, but we've got so far to go. We'll get into the divisions of the department, and I'll try to be more quick. Our administrative division, which is Amanda, organizes and serves all the divisions, the park, cemetery, sewer, not sewer, everything but the sewer, highway, processes all the town utilities now. The town manager decided that all the utility and the billing and the invoicing should be brought down to the Public Works Department so that we can better see what's going where exactly, because utilities are huge, as you know. This is extra work for her, and I think it's going to be, the centralization is going to be an advantage to the town. I heard Doreen say too, that's not in her budget. It's not, because it's in our budget now. We also, the pay-as-you-throw program is handled through the Department of Public Works. We order the bags, we distribute the bags, we invoice and we deliver the bags. Our administrative person, she doesn't deliver the bags, but she keeps track of the inventory. And we also do a town-wide vehicle fuel usage tracking, which I guess if gas was 25 cents a gallon, it wouldn't seem all that important, or it would, but fuel is a huge bill for this town, and we've got it to the penny. It's very important. The highway, we kind of covered a lot of this with the road repairs, even though they do many more things. But as I promised this committee last year, we would set up a documentation and a program, which Amanda has done. Again, it's more clear on yours. This request for service, what this is this is what you'll find on the website. If you go there, this has worked pretty well. People still feel like they need to call, and we're happy to deal with them as such. But this request for service is on the website, and it's sort of a little more, and it's much easier for us to track that, as you might imagine. We also have do we have the next one? Amanda, I'm going to jump it a little bit to expediency. This is our road defects. This is also a promise I made to you folks. Our construction foreman has this graphic that he has on the computer that Amanda set him up with, and each and every day things are documented, and then occasionally when the time is right, will be put onto a program that gives you the date, the location, the person's name, if they called it in, the residential contact, their information, and then a short blurb on what we did. So I learned early on here that it's not enough to get the call, get out and do the work, because sometimes the people don't see you doing the work, they're very frustrated, they need to be called. So we've come to this point, which I think really is the optimum situation here. I can tell you every day where we went, where we were, who we contacted, when they called, and what we did to provide them service or didn't provide them service, whatever the case may be. Our facilities now, can we go back to that? I just, one more. Yeah, the drainage maintenance, the catch basin cleaning is also documented. This clipboard is kept on the catch basin cleaner, so we know where we've been, when we've been there, and on occasion we'll bring it back and we'll do a similar form as was done with the pothole log. The sweeping map a little bit differently, but as we sweep, it's just a simple town map, but it's filled in each day, so we always know where our people are and what they've done. At any time, I can be asked who was where, what did they do, where are you on a certain program. And you'll see in your packet that there's document after document of what's been done and where we've done it. Okay, now we go. The facilities staff, now this is the newest division within the department. We took over the town buildings less than 10 years ago. We have 2 people now. We had one in a piece before. Now we have 2 people. They're on call 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. This has worked out just great. This is one of those things where you want to limit your outsourcing because your outsourcing is so incredibly expensive, especially with the HVAC systems. So these people are not only technicians, carpenters, they're just phenomenal at what they do. I mean, you can go into this building, any building that they work in, and say, you know, everybody's got a good word for Jim and Kit, the 2 people that do it. They're just extraordinary representatives of the department. They also do a what's called a school dude work order tracking, and how this works is that each town employee can log on, enter a work request. This is sent directly through email to the facilities manager. Once he opens it up, the email is sent back to the initiator to say that the order's been acknowledged. He will then send back to the initiator once the work is complete. So it's a perfect loop. We try to minimize people grabbing them during the day and having them do things. I mean, I think that's just part of real life. But this way, we encourage people to track it, and they are getting more and more into the program. And this has worked out just tremendously. It also gives us, like those other things, a documentation of the times we've been contacted, what we've done, and when we've done it, how we've done it, and for the most part, what it's cost. This is also important when we come to the capital plan, where they provide a building survey for needs in the buildings. We're now kind of sweeping through the capital plan and asking people like Doreen or people that work at the Ritter and people at the library, instead of overlapping, that they contact our people, we work together, and we submit the capital plan as the people that are in charge of the buildings. And I would just, as an aside, I know we've begun the building reuse committee. And I think this is good. This is going to be a great thing for the town, and I would encourage those people on the building reuse committee to tap that resource. Nobody knows the buildings better, and I mean nobody, the town buildings, can't speak for the school, than these 2 fellas, inside and out. Our grounds, which incorporate the town properties, the parks, and the cemeteries, this in fact is a good place to outsource. Because landscaping, lawn cutting, as important as it is not a very specialized task, but more importantly, it's something for which we don't have to pay prevailing wage. It's one of the few things where we don't have to pay a prevailing wage, so it's a very competitive business. You see lots of people around, big trailers and equipment, and we get a great price on that, and people just come in, blow it out. The fields, the town properties, not the cemeteries at this point, but all the parks and the playing fields. And because we lost our park manager through attrition, we find that we're saving a lot more money this way. It's a lot more efficient, and we just deal with the results. We don't deal with, the benefit package, the time off during critical times, things like that are not unusual, but now since we're able to do that, it's just a much better situation. We also use seasonal employment. If we do have the money because of the savings, we may hire somebody at a low rate of pay to assist in cutting or other serving the properties in other ways. And you'll see in your packet there that for the last couple of years, I've participated in this LUCK program, which is in Fitchburg, and what it does, it supplies 2 or 3 individuals to work with the town. We put them in a landscaping situation. We pay just a minimal amount. They're kids that are maybe a little less advantaged than some, and it has just worked out as a tremendous, they're local kids. It's just been a tremendous asset. And we're real proud and we're real happy to have them. So all of those things are how we take care of the town property. So, you know, stepping back, is there enough in the budget? Yeah, there's enough in the budget. We're not going to be looking at going above target there, or for some of the other things that I suggested, or explained, rather. Now, the turf complex. I put this in here because it's very dear to me, for one thing, but because there seems to be some confusion as to ownership. Well, frankly, I don't think it's confusing at all. The park is the overseer of the turf complex, so that comes under the Park Division, which comes under the scope of the DPW. The Park Commission is overseen by 3 elected officials, and I'm their agent, if you will. I tried unsuccessfully. Actually, the Park Commission came to the Board of Selectmen, town manager, myself, a number of years ago and said, look, the turf complex is great, we love it, but you know what, this isn't a forever thing. This is going to need work. It's going to need work in about 7 years. Okay, we thanked them because they give us a heads up on that. And then the school building project jumped out. For the record, personally, and the department support the school project 110%. And we're going to do everything we can to help that to be the best school in the area, and anything that the DPW can do. We're 100% for it. What I tried to do unsuccessfully was to group the turf complex into the big number in the school. The number of the turf complex would have been around $700,000, and it would have been a resurfacing of the track and a resurfacing of the field. And I thought that being done at the conclusion of the school project, it made a lot of sense to me. If we're going to spend $34 million or $36 million, at another $700,000, in my simple accounting, wouldn't be a whole lot, and it would make a whole lot of sense because it is, for all intents and purposes, on the campus. Now, by the kindness of the school building committee and some really informative conversations, I was brought to understand why this couldn't be. Nevertheless, the problem remains, and this is going to need resurfacing. And like so many, I put it on the capital plan, as I put on the capital plan the $800,000 I need for roads to supplement what we put forward. I see that those large projects sort of die on the vine. Why? We don't have the money. So when we look to the capital planning committee, we sort of have to heap more on their already full dish, and the town manager as to really, what are we going to do with big projects? You know, something has to happen there. I don't have a solution. I wish I did, but there are going to be big projects. There's the roads, which we covered in spades. This is going to be a big project. I mean, what do you think what is your sense of what the reception will be at town meeting as we're underway with the school project and people are looking at their tax bills, that I come forward and I say, geez, I'd really like $800,000 for the track? I'm a little pessimistic with that. I think people are tapped out. Nevertheless, there's going to be other projects big projects for which we need funding. And this is going to be one of them, and that's why I try to get it folded in, and obviously I understand that. So that's something that's going to come up. Lastly, I'm going to make this the last, our vehicle maintenance. And once again, we provide service all the town vehicles, excluding the fire department. We've established, finally, a maintenance software package, and you have some of the summary reports that track service, preventative we need to go back. I mean, you just clicked it. Yeah. Preventative maintenance reminders, email notifications when service is due, and I could go on and on about this, but I know we're getting lengthy. This has been, like the other logs and other documentation, something that even though we have less funds or minimal funds, this is something that we use and makes us more efficient, more streamlined, and it's also memorializes documentation for people in the capital plan, the police for one, and for our own for vehicle rotation. Jump. The sewer, I'm not going to speak on the sewer enterprise fund, only to tell you that the sewer is under the umbrella of Public Works, but I understand that the sewer division is coming in on the 26th, so I'm not even going to touch that. I'm going to leave it up to our chairman. Next to last, I'm almost there. These are projects right now we have in the pipeline. When we think about the funding that we don't have, we have to think about the funding that may be available to us through the state or federal programs. One that was funded through the capital plan is the intersection of Townsend Harbor and Malpas Road. That is funded, and that's scheduled for this spring. The Summer Street project is a $6.5 million project. It's in the design phase. We're at the 25% design phase. We need another $333,000, which is Lunenburg's share, the biggest share, in Fitchburg and Leominster, to get to a complete design. So between the town manager, the board of selectmen, all of us, will be looking to find that $333,000 to get that road designed. It's currently on the TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, for the year 2017. That's the build year. Route 13 is another project where we're looking to have the state fund. We just made the application. This goes to a statewide meeting to prioritize. That meeting was supposed to be this winter. It got canceled. It hasn't been rescheduled. So what we're looking for, what they call a book job, which is a repaving and some amenities from the Northfield intersection to the Townsend line. You'll notice in the pavement management plan, if you see that, that's a high priority in this town. It would be awfully nice to get the state to pay for that. We're getting a little more aggressive with MRPC. This is where we get this funding through, and we're a little more aggressive because one of our selectmen, Ms. Bertram, has taken this by the neck and goes to all the meetings, and we're much more aggressive in going after the funds now that she's going to all these meetings. We were encouraged by Mass DOT to apply for this. They thought it was a great job. So we've hired an engineer and we've made the request. Now in the conceptual stage, our Lancaster Ave at the intersection of Page, Kilburn, and actually Goodrich. These are in the conceptual stage because I'm told by the engineering company that there may be some funding available for not high hazard intersections, but if you think about these intersections, there are these sliders that come off, and there may be funding available. So this is so current that I haven't spoken to the town manager about it, but we're going to get down and meet with the state, and perhaps there's some funding there. So be confident that we're looking at every source of funding outside of the operational budget in the Chapter 90. If it's out there, we're going to find it, and if we find it, we're going to apply for it, and then we're going to chase it like heck. We're going to do that. Lastly, outside the box, what are we going to do for money? Our stormwater fees or drainage, how are we going to improve the drainage? Just because it's buried underground doesn't mean it's not antiquated and defective. Spoken to the town manager about perhaps offering for consideration stormwater fees. What this would be a flat rate, a very small rate for residential customers, and then the commercial fees would be based on the amount of impervious surface areas that they had, perhaps parking lots, roofs, and things like that. And it would be a way to get some funding directly for the drainage. Now, when I say outside the box, this is outside the box. This is the first you're hearing about this, but it's incumbent upon us as department heads to look for ways for different funding. The second one, and probably not very popular, is what's paving betterment. Now, this has been done in other cities and towns, and there's only certain parts of towns where this is even feasible. One that comes to mind is Hickory Hills, where you have a street or a number of streets, the town pays it to town specification or rebuilds it, and then the cost is divided between the residents who choose to be part of the system. Obviously, there's a lot of holes in this, but these are just things outside the box. These are just things we're starting to talk about. Lastly, and this is, I guess, outside the box is outside, but I don't know how far this one is, but I'd like to work with the Conservation Commission. We're just in discussions and very few discussions, but our cap landfill is over there. We're under where it says cap landfill. This is an access road. The white where the parking lot is now, is just to the outside of where our recycling dump is for leaves and brush. Obviously, this isn't to scale, but you can see how this would fit into that area, which is a place we used to screen sand from. It's just clay now. It really isn't any kind of material that's valuable to the town, but it may be valuable for the people that work in materials. I think we all ought to get together with the Conservation Commission, who has the land just above all that. And when we're looking at things that we should be doing as a community, I think this is an area where we could really excel. So that's something we're going to be talking about in years to come. I think that concludes it. I want to thank you for, I know this gets lengthy, but you know what, that's just indicative of the things that we do down there. The breadth of the scope of what we do, I think, sometimes baffles me. It's this, it's that, it's everything. Deadbolts to doorknobs. So thanks. I know it's been lengthy. Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Just a comment and then a question. I think it may not seem this way, but I believe you are getting through to the various committees. The difficulty we have is that as a town, our revenues are not increasing at the same pace that our costs are increasing, and it's an ongoing challenge. We recognize the condition of the roads, we recognize the condition of the street sweeper, but we have to make difficult choices, and that's what we've been doing. That said, I do have a question with regard to the snow and ice. The expended through February 5th is $340,000 plus, and you have $98,000 in the pipeline. Is that money that was already committed and accrued, or is that an estimate of what you need to finish the season?
I'm going to let my accounting component answer that. Is that okay?
That's fair.
Hello.
Hi.
I just want to preface this by saying the totals column is wrong. I don't know if anyone else picked up on that. It's not added correctly. I just picked up on that as we were going through the presentation. The deficit is right. It's just the way it automatically calculated, it automatically summed that last column, including the original appropriations, which gives that total that's a little off there. In the pipeline, those are estimated bills that have already accrued from specifically, if you're looking at contracted services, which is the large portion of it, those are estimated contractor plow bills that we have not received yet. I looked at all the hours and all the rates and did an estimation. It's fairly close, it's not exact, but those are things that have already happened. Same thing with the overtime. That is the number of the overtime that hadn't gone through on payroll yet, as well as with supplies from some sand and salt deliveries that we have already received. They're estimated because we haven't received the bills yet based on quantities.
Right, but we've incurred the expense.
Yes.
Great.
And that was as of February 4th.
Nope. The year-to-date expended, which has the February 5th date,
Yes.
those are things that are already through the system. They're in our accounting database. In the pipeline is current through about last week. So that's
Okay.
pretty current.
If I can read into your concern, Terry, we had quite a month of February. I think there were
No, that's
Three
what that's
storms of-
basically what the in the pipeline is.
Yeah.
Those big plows plow events that came through were the in the pipeline things.
great. Thank you. And Jack, I do want to make one other comment, and that is the transparency and visibility that you've brought. Starting with the pavement management plan, now you have the snow event detail or database. You've got the pothole database. You've got the work order database. That's a great way to bring transparency and visibility to where the money's going. So I commend you for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just have one of my questions going along has been around, especially in the capital planning process, the vehicles that are used, and the fact that you have the fleet management software and have used it, and the reporting sample is pretty helpful. And I'm wondering if it's possible in that service and expense summary or in that software, is there something that reports out exactly what the vehicle is? Because some of it I'll look at and I'm not really sure what that is, but gee, that must be the sweeper. I'm not sure. And then the other question that I have would be anticipated life, either through odometer use or, 20 years. You expect to get 20 years out of it. And mostly I'm just looking for this I'd like to be able to anticipate beyond the 5-year capital plan system what the big ticket needs are over time.
Yeah, and I happened to be present when Kerry gave her presentation, and you asked that same question and requested that same information from the fire department, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Yeah.
Currently, we do the capital planning out 5 years. With vehicles, it'd be very easy for me to say, yeah, I'll get that for you. And whatever you'd like, I'll do my best to get it to you. That goes without saying. It's difficult with vehicles, particularly a street sweeper or perhaps a plow unit. Anticipated life, that sort of moving target.
Okay.
But if you're more concerned with a vehicle rotation extending out further than the 5 years, then we can put something together for you on that. It wouldn't be documented in the vehicle maintenance log. This was a summary log. The initial report that I had in the program was 45 pages long. It gave vehicle identification number, description of the vehicle, the part numbers and the part costs, and there was just so much information. It was a question of whether I was going to give you a partial report or a summary report.
Sure.
Our choice was to give you a summary report. So perhaps I could give you the entire report, and you see if that gives you more information that you're looking for. If it doesn't, naturally the software is restricted to certain things. If you're thinking in terms of getting this information from the software package, if it's something that we can provide to you as an estimate, then we can do that longhand.
And I'm not even sure how necessary the estimate is, as much as I find it extremely helpful to have an inventory.
Right.
That's to start, because I also just look out and see, oh, gee, you've got some vehicles that have been around for a very long time, and gee, even though we see the capital plan for 5 years, what's happening in years 6 to 10? Is there going to be all of a sudden a large turnover? So to the extent that what I would be looking for really would be an inventory that states that, this is the year that we purchased a Ford F-250 and it's used for what? I mean, so.
We do have that.
Right,
That becomes
that's what we're
that
right.
becomes a component, or that's a component of the insurance here. So
Okay.
every year we upgrade what we have. That includes a data purchase, the odometer reading, if it still works, the condition of the
Okay.
vehicle, where it was purchased, when, how much it costs. That might be helpful to you.
Yeah, that would
And
actually.
each department does that for every piece of equipment. Every department does that. So that might be something that we could get for you. You could request from Linda Douglas, and we upgrade that on a yearly basis.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? No? From the public? Please. Ms. Bertram.
I don't have a question per se, but I just want to comment specifically on the street sweeper, and I brought this up Tuesday night. From an environmental standpoint, stormwater has been one of my issues for a number of years, being very actively involved in lakes and wetlands. This is mandated. It's not an optional service that we provide, it's mandated by the state. And the concern that I have is I understand we're dealing with limited revenues and limited funding for capital plan, but I also think that what we do, we have to look at, does the money that we're spending make sense? And to be spending, we spent $11,000 last year, we're looking at least $5,000 this year on a piece of equipment that's valued at between $7,000 and $8,000. It just doesn't make sense to me. And the other thing is the numbers that we're talking about for one pass is in excess of $30,000. Keep in mind, that's one pass. That doesn't cover, that's a very low estimate in my opinion, because given the amount of salt that's on our roadways right now, one pass is not going to be sufficient. And that doesn't cover if, as Jack talked about, is if there's an accident or we're doing a pavement project. So I think $30,000 is extremely low for outsourcing. And the question that was raised is, do we think it's going to work this season? Who knows? It's a 20 piece of equipment that we keep pouring, and as far as I'm concerned, from a taxpayer's perspective, good money after bad. So that's the only comment that I have. And I know we've set the plan and we're looking at the budget, but this is the time to have these discussions. And I really think we've got to look long and hard at whether or not, trying to get another year out of that and putting $5,000 more into that piece of equipment makes sense.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Toll.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The discussion of the street sweeper is obviously part of the capital discussion, which is scheduled for the 13th. And I think it's appropriate to have that discussion when the capital planning group is here to talk about the priority setting. I don't think there's any question that it's a difficult task, but an obligation of that committee to look at the needs of the town. And we did, in fact, recognize that it was an obligation of the town to make sure that we don't hurt the environment, et cetera. But there were some decisions about the best way to pay for that and the costs associated with it that need to be documented and discussed, and I believe that's on the schedule for the 13th.
It is. Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Jack, Amanda, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Just going back to our agenda. We covered the committee and department updates. We also talked about the fiscal policies, which is a work in progress. Do we have any further discussion on that? John, you're going to bring the next revision to the draft to our meeting next week.
Yeah, what I thought I would do is to pour over some of the other fiscal policies we've of other towns and draft some talking points about an introduction that we could at least use as a stepping off point. The other thing that you may want to look at the street sweeper with respect to the policy with regard to regular borrowing.
Yeah. I think, to Mr. Toll's point, that would be germane to the discussion next week.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the financial policies?
No.
Okay. Budget opportunities. Any new budget opportunities we want to talk about tonight?
No, but I will say that one of the other things I've been impressed with by the budget as presented and the work of the department heads has been the commentary in each of the different sections about what people have been doing within their purview to try to either find sources of funding for things or other ways to do things that will hopefully provide some of those budget opportunities as well. I think it was a nice focus.
Good. Okay. Future agenda items. We meet next week, the 13th. We have public safety on the agenda, police and fire. As we've talked about here, we also have the capital planning. And then we have land use and administration along with unclassified debt service. And I believe the town manager is going to summarize many of those departments. We're not expecting to hear from all of them. Then we meet again on March 20th, and we have the school department, Lunenburg Public Schools, along with Monty Tech. And then March 27th, we wrap up our budget meetings with the sewer enterprise, along with all other moneyed articles in preparation for annual town meeting. And then finally, the official public hearing of the budget, again, on the 27th. I've asked town manager to just provide a brief summary of the budget, and then we'll open it up for any public discussion that there might be. Hopefully, if we don't get another snowstorm, we can stay on schedule. That's the agenda for the next 3 weeks. Anything else for tonight?
Not for me.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and good night.